The following content does not reflect the opinions of Fox Sports Radio. Frankly, it shouldn't reflect your opinions either.
Kill the music!
What are you doing?
Kill the music!
Turn off the music!
How many times have we told you? You don't come in with upbeat music when the show's starting on a down note. A foolish producer.
Ugh.
You never said anything.
I wish you never said anything, ever.
Yeah, shut up. Anyway, let's just get into the show. Paulie Fusco here with Tony Fusco, live from Philly, #1 rated show, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, we're going to clear up all the lies and misinformation from the Eagles' so-called loss to the Bucs, and we'll also address the fallout from the much more embarrassing Cowboys loss.
Way more
to
embarrassing.
The Packers. Yeah. Just two quick show notes. Don't forget, vote for the show in the Sports Podcast Awards.
Go vote.
Which we just found out are run by a bunch of British people.
Yeah.
No wonder they put our show in the comedy category, Tony. They don't understand it.
Yeah, well, I didn't understand the British version of The Office. So much less funny than the American version. Go eat your tea and trumpets and leave us alone.
Yeah. One other show note. The show is now on the radio on 1090 ESPN Radio Los Angeles, 98.5 The Bet in Vegas, and, some stations in Hawaii. But, this just proves, Tony, what's going on. These radio stations bringing on our show just to boost their sagging ratings.
Yeah, of course.
And,
what else is new?
On that note, we're seeing something that is just so despicable in our business, aren't we, Tony? Two on-air personalities picking fights with each other in what seems to be a sad, desperate attempt to get attention and ratings. Stephen A. Smith and Jason Whitlock. Now, that's something that, as you know, we would never do because our ratings are huge already.
Yeah, we don't need to. They're so huge.
As journalists, we feel it's our duty, Tony. When a major story like this breaks,
we gotta cover it.
Dig into this public feud between these two very big voices in our industry, and I mean big in terms of loudness, not importance, of course.
No, of course.
Yeah. Well, we were going to bring both of them on the show, to let them each explain their side of this story, but. The show's only 23 to 24 minutes max, so that would take about 5 days per person at the rate they talk. And some people did say to us, "Don't bring Jason Whitlock on the show. It's the last thing anyone needs." So we decided to find someone who could explain Jason's side of the story and possibly defend him. But since there is apparently nobody on the planet willing to do that, we've decided to just go ahead and bring Jason Whitlock on the show.
Yeah, it was our only option.
Yeah, but on the subject of options, let's talk about options in eyewear and a message from our good friends at Warby Parker. Do you wear glasses? Then you better listen up to this ad for eyes.
Yeah, the other day I ran into my Aunt Marie's boyfriend, Nunzio, and he said my Aunt Marie was having trouble seeing straight. And I said, because she needs glasses? And he said, no, because of the hard pounding Actually, you know what? Let's just keep going. We'll finish that story another time.
Special deal for our listeners and viewers.
Yeah.
Get 2% off your purchase. It's so easy to do. All you got to do is go to warbyparker.com/glasses, /promotion, /radio, /Paulie and Tony #1 show, /coupon, /limited time offer, and also limited time they have hyphenated there. So there you go. All right.
Easy money.
Easy money. And also, it's time to do one of the segments we haven't done in a while, Tony, but it's one of our most popular, where Paulie and Tony were right.
Where Paulie and Tony were right.
All right, first out the gate, the Eagles losing to the Bucs in Tampa. Just as we predicted. We said going in, right? This looks bad. All that warm, beautiful weather sets up very poorly for a Northeast team. And,
exactly.
We put out a clip after the game that went totally viral.
Of course.
It's what we call bonus content.
Yep.
So when you think about it, all our content is bonus
everything
content.
is bonus.
Yeah. But, Tony, people were criticizing the Eagles and their poor tackling, but you gave such good insight. Why don't you just remind the people?
As I said, it's totally obvious why the Eagles were so very bad at tackling. 2 words, suntan lotion. Our sources told us since they were playing in Florida, they were absolutely lathered in SPF 50 to protect themselves from the harmful UV rays from the sun. Coupled with 92% humidity, that made it impossible to grab anybody. Frankly, instead of criticizing the Eagles, we should be commending them for putting their skin health first. After all, there's nothing more important than player safety.
Such sobering analysis there, Tony.
Where Paulie and Tony were right.
Another angle on this game, we've been saying this for years. We all know that nothing that happens in Florida makes any sense.
Totally.
In fact, what happens is the reverse of what should happen. I mean, the 11-win Eagles lose to the 9-win Bucs.
Makes no sense.
You got the legendary coach Doug Peterson goes to Jacksonville and suddenly sucks.
How's that even possible?
45-year-old decrepit elderly Tom Brady wins a Super Bowl with the Bucs.
Defies logic.
The greatest college quarterback of all time is Tim Tebow.
Mind-boggling.
Most of the fans at Tampa Bay Rays games are Yankee fans.
Just bizarre.
The best pro teams in a state with 90-degree weather are ice hockey teams.
I don't even have the words. And, frankly, I think that if a game is played in Florida, the outcome should be immediately reversed. So the Eagles right now should be moving on to the divisional round.
Absolutely on-point analysis, Tony.
Where Paulie and Tony were right.
Another thing, all this finger pointing at the Eagles, people are blaming Nick Sirianni. Well, what about Nick Saban? We've been saying for years he's overrated, and now look at how terrible his quarterbacks are playing in the NFL. Jalen Hurts.
Sucks.
Tua.
Sucks more.
Bryce Young.
Cat piss.
In fact, our sources tell us that Nick Saban retired because he was so embarrassed by his failure to properly prepare his quarterbacks for the NFL.
I hope he's saving all his money because he's not going to make any anymore.
Yeah.
Where Paulie and Tony were right.
Another thing, people are saying this Eagles season is a failure, but that's because they're not seeing the big picture. We all know in the NFL what matters most. It's not Super Bowls.
No.
It's division rivalries.
Division rivalries.
Yep. Isn't that right, Tony?
100%. The Eagles can hang their heads high because they got farther in the season than the Cowboys.
Yep.
The Cowboys were long gone out of the playoffs while the Eagles were still alive for a good 21, 22 hours more.
Yep.
That's what matters most. The Eagles were the last NFC East team standing, and it wasn't even close.
Just such undebatable perspective there, Tony.
Yeah.
Where Paulie and Tony were right.
Talking about the Cowboys, last week we received a lot of blowback when we pointed out that Jordan Love beat Dak Prescott in the most important QB stat of all. And of course, we're talking about intended air yards. Which for you unaware fools out there is an advanced metric, which measures air yards whether the pass was complete or incomplete. And, people said to us, oh, well, that doesn't matter. But, Tony, they were proven wrong, weren't they?
The only stat that matters is intended air yards.
Yup.
How can you do anything if you don't intend to do it first?
Yup.
In fact, the more a person intends to do, the better. Don't you want a QB who intends to throw for 10,000 yards? Of course.
Yep.
I mean, I don't want to get political here, but I don't choose a presidential candidate based on what they've done. I choose based on how much they say they're going to do. If they don't promise to fix every single problem plaguing our country, they're not getting my vote. End of story.
Insightful sports and political analysis there, Tony.
Where Paulie and Tony were right.
Well, it's time to put on our journalism caps because I see our guest coming on the line, so let's bring him on the Fusco Satellite Network.
Fusco Satellite Network.
All right, this guy. All right, let's bring people up to speed on what's going on with them. People who have better things to do than waste their time on this story, As we said up top, there are currently two on-air talent in our business picking fights with each other in what seems like an effort to boost their views and audience, which, is something we don't have to do.
Never.
Because we have such a robust viewing and listening audience as is, in the tens of millions. But as journalists, it's our duty to dig into this major All right, kind of major story, to get the truth. Now, originally we wanted to bring on someone who could explain and possibly defend the behavior of Jason Whitlock, but we couldn't find anyone who could do that. So instead, all right, here he is, host of Fearless on Blaze Media, Jason Whitlock.
Good to be here with you guys. Thanks for having me.
Well, there's a lot to unpack here, as they say, Jason.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about.
Stephen A. came out with a book about himself, and then you went and claimed he made up a bunch of stuff in it, specifically about his high school basketball career, which I guess you think is important or whatnot. Then he publicly attacked you, and we apologize to our radio audience here, but we must quote Stephen A. directly for journalistic purposes. He said you are a, quote, fat bastard and a bitch, and a, quote, fat fucking piece of shit, and, quote, a roach of an individual, and the devil, and the worst human being you'll ever meet. And I'm paraphrasing here, but the worst, most garbage embarrassment to the human race, and again, the gigantic fat. Okay, so that leads to our first question, Jason. How do you respond to these hurtful but somewhat accurate allegations?
They're not hurtful. They're definitely not accurate. I thought Stephen A. Tapped into his feminine emotional energy and talking about, if you see Jason Whitlock, wrap your arms around your soul. He'll snatch your soul. Man, he sounded like a little woman. He sounded like an actor. And he's not a bit. He comes across, if you watch a bunch of his interviews and you read his book, he sounds like a pathological liar. He stretches the truth about everything.
What do you say he's lying about? Give us an example here for people who really don't care about this at all.
Well, what I think he's perhaps exaggerating or misleading people, I don't think he earned a basketball scholarship at Winston-Salem State University. I don't believe it. I don't buy it. He says he did it in a one-day tryout in February of 1988, I believe. The guy he was on his high school basketball team for a month or two. He never was any type of player.
Yeah, but my question is, why do you care, and why should anyone care? I'm having trouble caring.
People should care because he's at the top of the sports media. He's the face of ESPN, and he's a guy that stretches the truth constantly.
Okay, all right, but look at yourself, Jason.
Yeah.
Hold on. You claim to have a college football career.
Yeah.
But it appears nobody has any memory of that happening except for you.
Yeah, bro.
Isn't that a little strange?
No, because there's film, there's pictures.
I haven't seen it.
I looked it up, bro. Couldn't find it anywhere.
You ain't looked very hard if you couldn't find it. It's everywhere. Punch my name into Google and go to images, and you can see the little chubby-faced 20-year-old Jason Whitlock in a Ball State uniform.
Hold on, let me just do that. Hold on one moment. Jason Whitlock, chubby, Ball State
uniform, yeah.
Uniform. Not seeing anything. I do see something about going balls deep on a greeting card, it looks like.
Yeah.
But I don't even know how that's related to this.
Yeah.
Okay, well.
What are you looking up?
Anyway.
I played with Bernie Parmalee. Played 10 years.
Right, the great Bernie Parmalee, of course.
I played against Joel Smingy. Along.
Who's next? Bob, I've never heard of you.
What?
Dick, nobody remembers you. Was that someone you played with too?
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the number one draft pick in the NFL in 1990? I think his name was Jeff George. We were high school teammates and friends. My football history is documented.
That's the name you want to peg yourself to? Okay.
Jeff George, he didn't go to Ball State. Didn't he go to Illinois?
Yeah, he did. But we played high school football together. We grew up together. He can vouch for me.
Well, we invited a bunch of people on this show, and they all turned us down.
We should have invited Jeff George.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
This interview would have been better right now if it was Jeff George.
Set y'all straight and gave y'all the truth. You should have invited Jeff.
Okay, but here's what I want to know. You're taking shots at Stephen A. He's got this book. It's a bestseller. It has 1,762 reviews. Meanwhile, we looked up your last book. It's got 7 reviews and currently ranks 4,228,944 on all of books on Amazon. I don't really have a question here. I just want to see, aren't you jealous? Is that what's going on?
I'm not jealous. And if you're talking about my collection of columns book, that came out in 2000 or 2005 or whatever. I can't even remember. That's not.
Oh, see, you're not accurate with dates.
It came out 20 years ago or 25 years ago.
But you'll attack Stephen A. for his high school basketball career.
For his half a point or half an assist.
How you average 1.5 points in one game? Can either one of y'all do that?
Well, hold on. Did you consider that maybe they got some like 8th grader, some moron to score the games and he didn't know math?
This is college I'm talking about. This is college where he averaged 1.5
frankly,
points.
let's just not get into this because everybody's bored with this part of the story, Jason, all right?
Yeah.
I have a question for you, Jason, about your career, right? I was surprised that you're attacking someone in sports because I thought you were out of the sports business and into
you're
the
in the
politics
politics.
business. Shouldn't you be attacking, that woman on NBC with the glasses, whatever her name is?
Rachel Maddow or no, listen, have you not been paying attention? I've never left the sports world. Who spent all college football season telling you exactly what was going to happen with Deion?
I don't consume your content just like most of
Buffalo.
America, Jason, so please.
Who told everybody knows I was the only guy standing out there telling you Deion Sanders was going to be a flop, that their 4-0 start was meaningless.
We didn't bring you on here to talk about any of this, please. Our ratings are going down. We need to focus on the topic. All right, hold on.
Yeah.
Let's get to this. Dan Lebitard, on his show, he said, there are people out there that if they saw you in the street, they would run up and punch you. So that leads to a two-part question. Who are these people? And two, do you think they'd be potentially interested in, a pay-per-view cage match with you that we could arrange, just for journalistic purposes?
I think you're talking about Mike Ryan. And
who?
One of little Dan's sidekick minions says that he beat me up. And he sounds just like another Stephen A. Smith, a guy talking tall trash. Look, man, I'm 56 years old. I'm not fighting anybody. I live in a state. You got a right to carry. Dan and these guys live in a state in Florida where you got a right to carry. They make guns for old people like me, so we don't have to do any more fighting. So
basically, anyone comes up, you're shooting everybody. Just boom, 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 boom.
I'm just saying. I live in a red state for a reason.
What if someone's like, "Oh, can I have your autograph?" Boom, 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 boom.
If someone attacks me, that we still have a right to defend ourselves in this country. Yes.
Oh, so, again, this is just for journalistic purposes. Are you saying that you would shoot at Stephen A. Smith if you saw him? I don't want this becoming like, some kind of clickbait headline on Yahoo Sports or Yardbarker, but it does sound like you were saying Jason Whitlock will shoot Stephen A. Smith, announces it on #1 Fusco show. Is that what you're saying?
What I said was I would flick Stephen A. Smith on his forehead and he would fall over crying in a fetal position. I would pimp slap Stephen.
We find this very troubling. This is like shades of West Coast versus East Coast beef.
Yeah, you're like the
Biggie and
Smalls,
Tupac.
right?
Yeah, you're Biggie, obviously. Well, are you? Do you want to repeat that kind of history?
I do not, but. These guys want to bring smoke to me.
This does seem like it's escalating into rap wars, except just not as glamorous or as interesting.
Yeah, it's not a rap war on my end. I got nothing but love for any of these guys. I'm not looking for trouble from anybody, but guys want to talk tough and bring it to me. Okay.
Well, how do you respond to the allegations that you are doing this just for views?
Yeah.
But actually, hold on. Before you answer that, don't forget you can get 20% off in the official Fusco Show merch store, January 24th to the 28th. Okay, Jason, now go ahead and answer that question.
I think they're truthful allegations. How about that? No, yes, everything I do on my show is about getting viewers.
There you go.
I tell the truth on my show because truth is in such short supply. And so, I'm exposing the truth about Stephen A. Smith. He's a plant. He's got a fictional background and narrative. Cat Williams, in his interview with Shannon Sharp, was pointing out these people, and I just pointed you to one in the sports media world, no different than Kevin Hart, no different than what Cat Williams was talking about.
Jason, I gotta say, I'm very concerned about what you're doing here.
Yeah, we're concerned here.
As Stephen A said while he was calling you a fat bastard, we're all part of the sports media community, and it's important that we all treat each other with respect.
Yep, we're a family.
So we're going to do one last thing here. We want you to look in the camera. There are a lot of people in this business who look up to sports journalists. They don't look up to you mostly, but they look up to sports journalists.
Yep.
And they're looking to you right now to set an example. So just look at the camera and apologize to Stephen A. Smith, and let's just settle this beef right now. Come on.
Stephen A., had I known you were not man enough to handle a book review, I would have never written and talked about your book, Straight Shooting Lies, I think is what it's called. A memoir.
The bestseller, Straight Shooter. Keep going. Get the title right, Jason. This is part of the apology. Go.
Yeah. So, Stephen A., I apologize that you're not as manly as Mitch Albom. I wrote a tough review
all right.
of his book.
What?
Okay,
Jason,
that's it.
You don't want to take advice from
We
anyone.
tried to help you.
I'm apologizing.
Here's some advice.
Yo.
You're off the show.
You're off the show. You're Whitlocked out for good.
More like Tim Whitlock.
See ya. Off the show.
Fusco Satellite
Is he off the
Network.
line?
Jay, hang up the phone.
We're never having that fool on this show again, period.
Yeah, we're going to block him from ever coming back here again.
Good one, Tony. Great
Thank
way to
you.
wrap it up, because we're not going to let him ruin, which was a terrific show. Of
Absolutely
course, we want to
not.
thank our good friends at Warby Parker.
Thank you. Oh, you kidding me? Producer Jay.
The person who makes Jason Whitlock look like a tolerable person.
What do you want?
You said Tom Brady was 45 when he won the Super Bowl with the Bucs.
Yeah, remember it well, bro.
Do well.
No, you don't. He was only 43 years old. He was 45 when he retired.
Oh, yeah? Well, I'm going to show you a 45. My gun.
Yeah, and go check out the wheels on your car. It's also going to need to be retired.
Good
you're
one,
done.
Tony.
Nope,
He's
no,
done.
no,
What?
nope.
What? Hurry up.
When you were listing former Alabama quarterbacks playing in the NFL, you left out Mac Jones.
So, what's your point, bro?
Yes, so?
My point is that maybe if you actually bothered preparing before the show, you would have remembered to include him.
Oh, well, see, there's a reason for that. I was too busy preparing your funeral.
Yeah, and don't worry. If there's one thing we'll remember to include, it's the bullets in the gun we're going to shoot you with. Oh,
Great
look out.
one, Tony.
Oh, he's done.
No,
Let's
no,
get out of
what?
here.
No.
What?
At the top of the show, you said the British phrase was tea and trumpets.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, that's what they say over there, bro.
It's tea and crumpets. I'm going to go out on a limb and assume you've never been to England.
Oh, yeah? Well, you're going to go out on my balcony when I dangle you over it.
Yeah, and I know one place you've never been. Between a woman's legs. Oh, he's done.
Great
he's
one,
shit.
Tony.
He's so
And here's another
fucking
great
shit.
one. Guess who's coming on the show next week? Just
Oh.
booked. Eagles legend, Super Bowl hero Nick Foles will be
Wow,
here. And
great
don't
news.
forget, vote for us in the Sports Podcast
Yeah, go
Awards.
vote.
Let's
Tell all
win
your
one
friends
for
to vote.
America there.
Yeah.
And support our merch store. Follow us on TikTok, all the major
buy all the
platforms.
merch.
And Tony, great job as always.
Same to you, Paulie. Another flawless show.
There you go. We'll see you people next week.
See ya.